Welcome to AMA with DMK, hosted by Danné Montague-King and Dr. Jayant Lokhande.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ask Me Anything. One of the subjects that Dr. Jayant Lokhande and myself are going to cover today has probably been a primary concern in most countries in the world, principally Asia, and that's called hyperpigmentation. By the way, hypo and hyper are opposites. Hyperpigmentation means excess pigmentation where you don't want it. Hypo means no pigmentation where you don't want it, such as in cases of vitiligo. And guess what? For many years, I've dreamed of getting rid of vitiligo. I never thought it was possible. There was a way. I was working with a nanotech lab outside of Beijing, China, with some government-paid top scientists. And we were discussing this, and I thought, well, let's go down to basics. What causes hypo? Superoxidase can cancel out the melasma that give us our color. Okay, catalase is the enzyme that can eradicate superoxidase. So I was talking to Dr. Autumn Y, who's the head of the nanotech lab. I said, is it possible that you could create a nano-sizable biodegradable capsule that we could put little pores in it and then pack it with catalase and then inject it in the site of vitiligo where there's no pigmentation? And it theoretically could happen. It could be possible, but expensive, and it would have to be under medical, and we'd have to have medical licensing and blah, 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 blah. I suppose, yes, once we perfected the technique, I could demand some money from the Chinese government and let them carry on with the medical approach, but it didn't happen. We dropped the project. Now we are entertaining ideas how to do it topically, but we'll discuss that in another video. All right, hyperpigmentation in Asia is very, very important because the Chinese women and other Asian women are brought up to think that the more porcelain white the skin is, the more beautiful the skin is. And if you drive around a big city in China, you see big billboards, skin whitening, skin whitening, skin whitening everywhere. Whereas here in the west coast of America, Caucasian people do just the opposite. Spray tans, tanning booths, laying in the sun, trying to be as tan as possible. Mostly because when you're older, like me, the tan covers up a multitude of sins on the face and body. You know, that's why they always say healthy tan. Ain't nothing healthy about a tan. And as a matter of fact, a tan is a defense mechanism. It's the melanocytes rushing to the surface, turning brown with solar damage. And I will have to say this, that basal cell carcinoma and other skin cancers are at an all-time high nowadays. Way, way higher than it was when I first started in this industry 56 years ago. Reason behind that is the ozone layer is going away. It's not coming back, I don't think. And of course, the sun rays that come through are more carcinogenic than ever. So there is a lot we can do about it, which brings us to a few talking points. Let's talk about the different types of hyperpigmentation. I've already covered a little bit about solar lentigines. Lentigines are pigmentation areas that are kind of raised up a little bit. We've seen plenty of those over the years. Epholides, melasma, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, that's the hardest one to get rid of because it's deep-seated. The inflammatory hyperpigmentation actually is easier to get rid of because it's a result of outside attacks, such as sunburn or some kind of injury or someone smacking someone in the face or whatever. It is faster to get rid of because it's only up in the exterior epithelium. Whereas the passive type, which is deeper because it's hormonally charged, is harder to get rid of. Sometimes there's combinations of both. Common to passive would be the cloasma that women get when having a baby, or the big melasmas that older women get when they have menopause, okay? Dr. Lokhande, talk about sun exposure and how the UV rays can trigger melanin overproduction.
Yes. So you will be surprised to know that to pigment or to stain the entire body, how much melanin we need. And you will be surprised to know that quantity, only 1.5 gram of melanin is present in entire human.
The entire body.
Entire body, 1.5 gram means like if I put on the table, you got to hunt it, that, oh, how it looks like as a quantity. You can imagine the intensity or the power of that melanin staining capability on the human skin. So and melanin is usually given the bad name. Actually, melanin is a very useful molecule.
Well, it's one of our main defense.
Main defense, exactly. And it's very durable. And that's exactly when the solar rays, you can divide into 3 wavelengths, as we all speak all the time: UVA, UVB, UVC.
Most people don't even know about UVC.
Yeah. So, and this bifurcation or the segregation is dependent on its wavelength, because the UVA and UVB are like below 420 nanometer. This thing, UVC is 422, 480 nanometer. Now, UVC is like a double-edged sword. It has its own benefit and it has its own kind of drawbacks as well. But UVA and UVB, no, because it will directly mutate the DNA in the skin cells, and that's why it is dangerous. That's why
we see the rise in basal cell carcinoma.
Yes, because any cancer starts with the mutation.
Now, what about hormonal factors?
Oh, hormonal factor is like, as you mentioned earlier, is a passive, because skin in the systemic biology is not isolated organ. It is highly connected with all other systems in the body. So when especially the glucocorticoids, mean cortisol, when it is up in the blood due to the stress, due to the other things, and imbalance in the estrogen, progesterone, oxytocin, and all that. So these hormones are primarily responsible for the skin pigmentation. Why? Because all these hormones have the receptors in the skin cells. See, for example, you take the testosterone and you take the estrogen.
Right.
Now, testosterone is unlikely to affect the skin. It will, but eventually on the long term. But estrogen, like, boom, quick. A woman coming into your clinic, you will say, oh, last month I didn't have anything. This month I got my irregular menses or whatever, and boom, it's done.
Yeah.
You know,
I've seen that.
Yeah. The reason is because skin cells are full of estrogen receptors.
And you're right about that, about the testosterone, because I never had my whole life until lately had what you would call age spots or liver spots or anything like that. That's a whole nother subject. The liver spots really are connected to the liver. Okay. But now in my late 70s, and now I'm 81, boom.
Yeah.
And I have to constantly do treatments to fight that, because I refuse to have old hands spotted up. Because I see the gentleman at the store and that sometimes 10 years younger than me, just liver spotted, dark, it's horrible. Yeah. So you're right. The hormones do play an extremely big role.
Yes, and it's all dependent. Now on the liver spot, as the topic is come, why it is called liver spot, though they are appearing on the skin. So they should be called as the skin spots, but not as a liver spot. The reason is that melanocyte stimulating hormone, MSH, liver is the one which takes the melanocyte stimulating hormone away. It detoxifies. But if liver is not doing that job due to the biological aging, I am saying biological aging, not chronological aging, then the MSH is not detoxified or eliminated from the body at the speed at which it should happen, and then one start getting the liver spot on the skin.
You know, it's so funny because I'm much older than you, and as long as I can remember, my mother used to say, talk about my grandmother's liver-spotted hands. Who thought of that? I mean, yes, we have leaps and bounds in technology nowadays, but some smart person who knew their anatomy, physiognomy, everything, actually knew what you just said, hence the name liver spots, because it can be a popular term that somebody made up.
Yeah.
Or maybe I thought when I was a little boy that maybe some of them were shaped like a liver, and that's why they called it that.
Oh.
Okay. Well, most companies that are selling products, especially on Facebook and even on television, point out that this product will remove everything. I've seen even the word melasma, which was a professional term for many, many, many years. Now it's like these companies assume that every woman out there, no matter how educated or uneducated they are, know what melasma even means. And I'm kind of annoyed by that. I don't like our professional terms being used for over-the-counter things. There's a lot more to it than just spot treatment, all right? That's why the DMK protocols actually work so well based on the remove, rebuild, protect, and maintain philosophy, which is our philosophy, RRPM. It's not an acronym. It's not a banner, a slogan. It really is what we do with the skin. Remove. Well, what are we removing? We're removing all of the damage to the exposed parts of the skin and body that suffers environmental attack, solar damage, etc. Key points was the face, neck, décolleté, backs of hands, arms, legs, depending on what you expose to the elements and what is covered. I've used this analogy so many years. Started with my poor old granny. She stayed with me one weekend I had an apartment back then, and she wanted a bath. And she said, honey, I can't get in and out of the bathtub. Can you help me? I thought, oh my God, seeing my granny with no clothes on. And so I tried to avert my eyes while I helped her in. And I noticed with great shock that, yes, she was hyperpigmented, wrinkled. Everything seemed to end right here at the clavicle. Her arms and hands were liver spotted and crepey too. But her torso and even her breast tissue were very smooth, whiter, firmer, without any marks than the rest of her body. Well, of course, she wore clothes, a decent woman, her whole life. Everybody wears clothes. It's what is exposed that arouses the defense mechanisms, including hyperpigmentation, right? So where remove comes in is, let's clear the field first. Let's get rid of all the old redundant toxins, damaged tissue, cuticle buildup, etc. Now we've got a clear playing field where we can go in and look at what's left of the hyperpigmentation. Sometimes a lot of it goes away because it's caught up in the old redundant cuticle. But now we can spot treat that much faster, much more successfully. Also rebuild. Rebuild means to bring homeostasis into the tissue. DMK is famous for that word, homeostasis, meaning yin-yang, everything equal, which means, which includes the production of melanin from its inception to its arrival on the surface of the epidermis, okay? Remove, rebuild, protect. Oh, biggie. Nowadays, sunscreens are more important than ever before in history. We're always reformulating, trying. In fact, we're even putting some screening, at least this is on the table, I hope it manifests, into my makeup foundation and some of our products there as well. Why? Because it's important. I think, and I know this sounds a little nutty, a little conspiracy theory, but of course we're in an age of conspiracy theories, that by 2055, everybody on this planet may have dark skin, or might even have scales, because the sun damage will be so intense. Already, the people that deny climate change are ignorant, because climate change is in our face, right in our face. We're approaching a point where we may not be able to do much about it. Hopefully we will. the human race has a very strong survival instinct, and there's a lot of very smart people out there. I have other theories based on that, but we won't talk about those today. So, remove, rebuild, protect, maintain is essential in treating any type of hyperpigmentation. So let's take a deeper dive on why DMK's holistic approach works so well for hyperpigmentation problems. You want to pick this one up, Dr. Lokhande?
Yes. So, remove, rebuild, protect, maintain, these 4 phases of the entire skin care revision goes hand in hand. So they are in circle. They are not like the linear that, okay, you reach out the maintain, now you don't have to remove. No, this goes like in tandem. Now, how we apply RRPM practice in respect to hyperpigmentation. Always remember, skin as such, apart from its genetic factor, doesn't like to go out of homeostasis unless we do something nasty.
Right.
So pigmentation is one, because as to begin with, melanin is a defensive molecule. Also, it is a very immune sensitive molecule. That means that the melanin is present in the melanocyte and then it gets transferred to the keratinocyte. That's how the skin gets its tone, and then it can prevent from the solar damage, from the other things and all that stuff. Now, when you are removing, what you are removing, actually you are removing all the dead trapped cells in among the cellular junction, because they are hampering the intracellular signaling constantly. That's why many people we have noticed DMK doesn't have a peel. No, we don't believe in that, but our peel in terms of alkaline wash, we will talk very shortly on that, removes all the dead cells which are trapped in the cells, not on the cornea.
Yeah, I want to jump in on this because I've been in this industry. You've been in the medical industry all your life, but I've been in this industry for, seems like 100 years. I've always been annoyed by that word peel. Peel, peel, peel. Green peel, blue peel, this peel. As if it were the absolute finito of everything and that's all you have to do. No, no, no. It's the reason we say we don't like peels. We're not saying we don't like removal of dead and dying keratinocytes. We're just not going to focus on that as a primary treatment.
Yes.
So I just wanted to throw that in.
Yes. Sorry. And so, and as you say, in the epidermis where the melanin is deposited, right? Now, in cases of the melasma, the melanin can even travel below the basement membrane and get saturated in the fibroblast when it is in the dermis.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
In the fibroblast?
Yes. Consider melasma as a tattoo. Once you get a tattoo, it remains forever.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Yeah.
Melasma behaves like the same. 20 years back, I got the melasma. It is still present on the same spot. No matter what I do, I still get the melasma there. So it behaves like a tattoo. Why tattoo remains like permanent on the body? Because now the tattoo ink has gone deep into the fibroblast.
I wonder if these tattoo artists know that. I didn't know.
Yeah. So, and that's why they make sure that and that's where the concept of the microneedling, why it is so dangerous to do. Because it will definitely increase the predisposing factor for the melasma.
Wait, you mean, now you've seen this with your own eyes. I've seen it. People walking around, mostly Caucasian people, because it shows up on their lighter skin, of course.
Yeah.
Almost like a solid body tattoo.
Yes.
And that is dangerous.
That is dangerous. Because now, once the melanin is trapped in the dermal fibroblast, you're already done. It is a done deal. Now, no matter how much laser you do, how much deep peels you do, you burn your skin, or even you do the skin grafting, and if that skin grafting is not done as a full skin graft, which hardly people do now because it's very expensive. If it is just the superficial skin grafting, it will occur again because now it is deeply saturated in the dermal matrix.
Well, I've never had a tattoo. Maybe that's the reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So
actually, I thought about it years ago, but I thought, with my so-called high IQ, I become an international criminal. And if I have tattoos, it goes on the sheets in the police pictures as identifying marks, tattoo, etc. So I'm not going to do. I was crazy when I was a kid. Of course, I didn't become an international criminal.
But you relate this to your practice. Say many people you might be knowing as a family, as a dear friend 30, 40 years back, and they have like a melasma on the cheek or on the neck or this thing. You see them today still there. Why?
Yeah.
If the skin is shading itself every 28 days.
Because it's deep within the fibroblast cell. Which is the factory that produces collagen and elastin and so on.
Yeah. And another hazard to this is that if the melanin gets deposited in the dermal matrix where it is supposed to be not there by nature, then it will also compromise your skin's immunity because melanin works very well with the Langerhans cells. So if the melanin sends bad signals to Langerhans cells, your Langerhans cells are constantly activated, which is not good for your skin's immunity index. Then you will get hyper reactive or hypersensitive. I don't like that term, but anything you put on, your skin will start reacting. That happens because the skin's immunity index is low. And
I wonder if we could, I'm not going to do this, but I wonder if there could be a study on heavily tattooed people and if there is a rise in basal cell carcinoma with those people or not.
I can find that out, and it's a very good point you have brought, because I was interested in terms of knowing, how the whole inquiry started with the chromosome, that it started with the tattoo. To be very frank with you, I made the scientific inquiry, why tattoo ink remains there for lifelong? There should be a reason. If the skin is shading itself every 28 days, then the tattoo ink should shed.
Should come off, but it doesn't.
But it doesn't. And that's how the RRPM works. RRPM is a very deep practice. If you take RRPM at the molecular biology level, you will understand that how deep it is and how exactly it works. For that, you got to read our manual.
Okay, let's talk about these particular. Now, we have a lot of products that we work with in hyperpigmentation, but let's illuminate our audience on these 1, 2, 3, 4 products that we're using.
Yes, perfect. So alkaline wash, as we mentioned, what alkaline wash does? It does 3 things. It alters the skin pH. It raises real sharp
up to 12
for the very short period of time. But when this ion exchange happens, is the hydrogen ion exchange happens in the alkaline wash, you start working on the intracellular junction, or we call the bridges, desmosomes and hemidesmosomes, and the protein signaling. So it dilutes or it liquefies for a time being. And then when you expand the space in between the 2 cells for a short period of time, all the dead trap cells come out. Boom, boom. Boom, because they are...
Everything desquamates.
Everything desquamates. And now once they are freed, now in the... like in the enzyme treatment, what you do after alkaline wash, usually it will push into the lymphatic drainage. That's the simple way alkaline wash does. Many people do not know that alkaline wash is a very strong exfoliator. What you can achieve with deep chemical peels, maybe 5 or 6 deep chemical peels, you can achieve that with just one simple alkaline wash.
I laugh at that because all these microdermabrasion machines, which I, like an idiot, brought into this country 20-some years ago, one of the first ones. It's a long story. But anyway, I tell people, why are you bothering with this? We can remove more cuticle, more excess hair, more everything, anything proteus in structure in a few minutes, boom, with alkaline wash. And another thing with the let's throw this in here real quick. With hyperpigmentation, we create what we call an osmotic sink. We address the exact perimeters of the melasma, so let's say it's on the hand or wherever, very quickly, we neutralize it, and then we put ice or histofreeze like they use in Europe, and now we can drop our Melanotech drops or every other hyperpigmentation products that we use.
Yeah.
And it will stay in that area without bleeding into the peripheral tissue and attack that old, deep, dark melasma.
Yeah. And also, it increases the permeability because it is loosening all the like the tight junctions and loosening up. So you really now have a good physiological space.
What about bihaku, Japanese meaning white skin?
The bihaku, we gave the term just like a fancy term for that. But what basically we use in bihaku is the super bright cream and the pro alpha.
So it's for general.
For the general. Now, here is a dichotomy. Alkaline wash is the alkaline, right? And pro alpha is the acid. Now, how we use extreme alkaline and extreme acid for the same hyperpigmentation. You know why? Because melanin, when you put the melanin pigment in the alkaline solution, okay, it dilutes, it disperses. When you put the melanin in the acid solution, it congregates, it becomes hard, and then it's very, very easy to degranulate them, make it as a microparticle and wash away from the lymphatic drainage. So both ways, see how the DMK is exploiting this simple physiological principle in two extreme ways, but addressing the same skin condition. Now, how would you determine which clients takes alkaline wash, which takes bihaku or pro alpha serum 1 and 2? Depends on their skin condition. If you find the skin is leathery, lichenified, very hard like a leather, you use alkaline because alkaline will liquefy. But if you find the skin is totally loose, dropping from its basement membrane, do the acid because now it will congregate all the skin cells.
What about the new Enzyme, which we're still almost finished working on?
Yes. So Enzyme, what we tried in the Enzyme is to encompass entire physiological pathway of the melanin journey. Means that melanin is produced in the melanoblast. So melanoblast is a home wherein the melanin is staying. Now, we went one layer deeper to it, that how the heck that melanoblast firstly formed. If there is no home, then melanin is homeless. It's very easy to eliminate, right? So we actually tried our journey of the Enzyme series. I cannot reveal much on the product.
Not yet.
Was the approach. So we started from the proteins which are responsible for the melanoblast. Then melanoblast become melanosome, wherein now the melanin manufacturing takes place, whether it's a eumelanin, pheomelanin, both. That is second. Third, after the melanin is completely matured in the melanosome, it gets released in the epidermis and it is now free floating, but not yet absorbed by the keratinocyte. That's the third step. When it is taken by the keratinocyte, now the skin really starts getting pigmented. That is the fourth step. And the fifth step is that once the melanin is deposited in the keratinocyte for years and years, it has to be autophaged. It has to be taken in the lysosomes, and the lysosomes are the trash bags of the cell.
Explain to the audience what you mean by autophage.
Autophage, as the name auto means self, phage means to eat. Self-eating.
Right.
So and who does that in the cell? Lysosome. That's why the lysosome are the bigger trash cans. They are like a entire trash department, janitorial department. They constantly...
He's learning analogies. If you listen to this man before let's say I just had him on as a guest, everything went over our heads, including mine. But now he's learning to analogize things.
I'm trying.
It's terrific.
And I have to be very honest with you, that's an art, and I'm learning from the gentleman. To be very honest, I'm not born with it. He is born with it. But that is my acquired skill. That is the innate skill for him.
You're doing very, very well.
So autophagy and autophagy is important because if you want to get rid of the old deposited melanin in the skin cell, what do? You have no other choice than taking the help of lysosomes, that trash can. So you literally create a vacuum in the trash can, like a vacuum cleaner. You create a vacuum, boom, in. So they take the melanin granules in the lysosome. Now they are trapped in the vacuum bag, empty it out.
And gone.
Right. So this is the story. Now this story we have exactly replicated in the products and the protocol. You got to wait for that.
All right. So I'm looking at my little points here. Highlight how clients have seen the transformative changes and how these cases drive DMK mission forward. We have a book, a B&A book, big, thick book, with before and after sent to us from all over the world, and little stories that back up what you're looking at with the very dramatic before and afters. One of the things that I'm always asked, and I know a lot of you therapists and doctors that use DMK concepts are asked, is how long is any result going to be? How long do we have to wait? Well, first of all, it's a progressive journey, and the home prescriptives are a vital part of that journey, absolutely essential. You can't just walk in and have a big treatment and expect, boom, everything to be gone. That's another thing that annoys me so much about over-the-counter advertising and why I've stuck with our niche in professional concepts and never appearing with anything online that people can buy. It's hard to say. The only thing you can tell your client or patient, if you're a doctor, is comparing to your past clients that have a similar condition. Now, sometimes you're surprised. We remember that incident where you were in Beverly Hills at Sandy Pacheco's clinic, one of our best therapists. And we had an older actress, redheaded lady with very fair skin, where Dr. Lokhande was actually doing Enzyme on her. And she had a big lentigo. Part of it was hidden in her hairline and part of it was out on the temporalis. And she said, oh, well, I was going to a dermatologist to have that removed. And Dr. Lokhande didn't say anything, but after the initial treatment was over, boom, it fell off. So we don't know. I would always say, be honest with them. Say 6 months of treatment and home prescriptive. Now, they very well may have a result right away. Okay, that's great. But if they do take longer, at least they're prepared. And they will always see changes happening. I know I have you can't see it now because it's up here, but I have a very large melasma on my arm. And I've been using it as a test case for various things. It's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. When I'm not compliant with the prescriptives, it doesn't move. It doesn't do anything. But when I am compliant, it gets lighter and lighter. It's been over 2 months. Okay, I'm happy with that because initially I know it will be gone. You have to be compliant. Okay, so as you're in your position, Dr. Lokhande, as Chief Scientific, what does CSA mean?
Chief Scientific Officer.
But it should be O.
Yeah.
Typo. Point fingers. Okay. CSO.
Well,
that's true. Okay, why DMK solutions are in a league of their own when it comes to delivering the long-lasting results for pigmentation?
Yes, it's a simple answer is because we address the root causes of the pigmentation along with the pigmentation. If you see the entire industry, they are all targeting just one thing, tyrosinase inhibition. Yes, we do that. It's not that we don't do it.
I'm not going to brag. I'm not going to take credit, but hell, I may be one I can say anything I want. I can take all the credit.
You have a privilege.
To be humble. I never set out to brag about anything. As far as inhibitors, I think maybe I am the godfather of inhibitors, or at least part of a small group around the world. of like-thinking people. I had a class at my training center years and years ago, and there was a food chemist that came up as a test subject. He happened to be a Latin chap, and with a deeper tone of skin. I think he was coming up for acne scar removal, which, by the way, can create hyperpigmentation too. And I looked at his hands as he lay there, and they were kind of white, but there was this definite line of demarcation. And I said to him, I said, forget his name, that is the weirdest looking vitiligo I've ever seen. And he laughed. He says, no, I don't have vitiligo. He knew what it was. I said, well, then how come this is so white? He goes, well, I'm working with a new ingredient from Japan and to replace MSG, because at that point in food, MSG had a bad reputation. As a matter of fact, there's nothing wrong with MSG, but in those days, oh, you can't eat that food, it has MSG, you'll fall asleep at the wheel, whatever. And this particular ingredient he was working with, because there were points in his R&D where he wasn't wearing gloves, and you can do that at R&D. It's only when you prepare things to go out that you have to wear gloves. But okay, anyway. And he noticed that his hands became lighter and lighter, and they wouldn't even tan in the sun. I said, what is the name of this? She said, it's kojic acid. And the Japanese are selling it as a flavor enhancer, and also they're working a little bit as a natural antibiotic. I said, can you get me some? So he brought me some powder. I had a heck of a time getting it to stay in solution. I was going crazy, but finally we managed. And that was a tyrosinase inhibitor. That's simple as that. And the analogy I used for years was think of tyrosine as a papa and tyrosinase as a mama, and they get together in bed and they produce a child called Melanin.
Yeah.
But if you put something in between them, they can't do anything, no baby. That was a very simple analogy that sold for years and years and years, but now we've gone so much further than just that.
Yes, so actually we took the help of that analogy, but guess what? Okay, you made a partition in between mama and papa, but what if papa is hanging around with another mama and the mama is hanging with another papa? What do? Now instead of having now one child, now you have two child, right? So we need to stop that. So we made sure that, okay, we are stopping that entire physiological cascade where they can slip and produce because see, if you ask me, the entire melanin production takes more than 50 proteins it's a highly complex mechanism.
Right? True.
Now, you see all the hydroquinone thing, then isotretinoin and all the bleaching agents and all that. They just work on that, okay, just cut the melanin. But that doesn't solve anything, because after bleaching, the pigmentation comes back, but you do not put the melanin, that pathway, into homeostasis.
Well, and excessive amounts of hydroquinone, which are illegal in this country, 4% you can use, is very toxic.
Yeah.
You can get hydroquinone poisoning.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that's what Michael Jackson had, because toward the end of his life, if you remember, he was having bandages on the tip of his finger.
Yeah.
And he had some of the scrupulous dermatologists in Beverly Hills that was making him, creams and so on with 15% hydroquinone, because poor Mr. Jackson did have vitiligo. And he wasn't trying to be a white person like people said. He was, he knew he was a black person. And so the areas that were still dark, he was trying to bleach to match the rest.
Wow.
See, and that's could happen to anybody.
Yeah. Well, why hydroquinone causes toxicity? Because it mutates the cells.
Right.
Then now it is a predisposing factor to a lot of cancers. Many people do not know this. Mutagenicity is the very, very fundamental cause of hydroquinone toxicity. So please stay away from that molecule. Okay. So how unique the Enzyme would be, because we are going to put melanin into the homeostasis. That skin requires pigmentation, we will just deliver what is required. That's it. Excess and all that will be removed.
So it's a long-term
Yes.
results.
Long-term result without any toxicity.
Now, just quickly before we move on to our audience questions, what about people with lupus? Because we've removed their pigmentation, but it always came back.
Yes.
So we would tell them, well, we can control it for long periods of time, but it will come back.
Now, in the lupus, and I'm glad you brought the topic, because now lupus, the pigmentation you get is due to that immunity, kind of malfunctioning, because SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus, is an immune disorder. Okay, so autoimmune disorder. Now, as I said, that melanin takes part heavily into the immune reaction, and that's why one gets the pigmentation. But now, in the Enzyme, along with the molecules which address directly to the melanin cascade, we have also added the immunomodulator molecules. That means now it will work on not only the SLE, but contagious dermatitis, lichen planus, all the autoimmune disorder which has the cutaneous manifestation in terms of pigmentation will be all addressed.
Well, we hope so, because I've worked with plenty of lupus patients.
Yeah.
And they're resigned to the fact that, at least what we're doing is better than nothing.
Oh, absolutely. That butterfly rash, what you typically see in SLE, will be really, really taken care of.
So we are hypothetically suggesting that it will be longer periods of control with Enzyme for lupus people.
Yes.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Knock, knock, knock.
No. That's why you have to wait for further micro details, because we are checking out, we are doing volunteer testings and all that stuff before we make it public.
Well, and we also get a lot of good feedback, mostly from the field.
Yes.
Even though we do in-house clinicals and all the other testing required, and even not required, we do a RIP test, which is not required. RIP, R-I-P-T, that means allergy. We don't have to do that by law, but we do, because we want to see in advance what possible allergens may be present in some people.
Yeah.
All right, so we have some really good audience questions. Let's go with that.
Yes.
Okay, first question. For our clients, I look like Rachel Maddow. For clients with deeper skin tones, how can I prevent post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation after a treatment? Are there specific DMK products or techniques you recommend to reduce the risk? And we're talking about ostensibly mostly Black people, I guess.
Yeah. So please tell the audience about that campaign you started 2 or 3 years back about Black Skin Matters.
Black Skin Matters.
How we address the skin of the color in a little different way, like product like cream citric and,
all of my research in Black skin started years ago in Chicago. I was teaching a class in skin at a Black beauty school, actually. And then later on in South Africa, where we had some terrible ochronosis cases where people, unfortunate Black people that were from the bush, they'd come into town, they'd get domestic jobs, they didn't have much money, but there were all these sort of unscrupulous pharmacists in the area, in their townships, that would sell them horrible high doses of hydroquinone. In one case, it was even household bleach and other things. Desperate to be white, because in the culture coming into the mainstream from the bush, it was, you get a better job if you're lighter. You get a better job, you get a marry up scale if you're lighter. Everything was based on whiter is better. That wasn't my take at all. As a matter of fact, upstairs on our executive floor, I have a huge letter from Buthelezi, who passed away. Brilliant man. He was high up in the South African government, one of the most religious, brilliant men I ever met. And he heard my philosophy about this. Whiter is not better. What is better is everybody has their own beautiful color, but we want it even in tone, okay? And that caught his attention. He actually summoned me to Parliament House many years ago and gave me an accommodation. And then a few years ago, 30 years later, he sent me a wonderful letter saying it was a real pleasure to meet somebody from the West who actually put his money where his mouth was and kept going with this particular philosophy of skin lightening and skin darkening and so on. So anyway,
so we have some protocol, like, we can little bit tweak with the skin of color, because see, now the skin of color has two types. One is very robust skin. It doesn't move. It doesn't really affect. But the another is very like delicate, or I can.
That's your dark Southern Indian.
Yes, responsive skin, I would say.
Oh my God.
So folliculitis you will see commonly because due to the
mostly in black men, true. Yeah.
Black men and all. So we have treatment, like you have a fantastic choice of all the exfoliator, quick peel, alkaline wash. But again, that comes in a package. It's not like a single product. Okay, take this and it works in the skin.
Well, okay, classically, and I always say this when I address a black audience, black skin is the most superior skin cells on the planet.
Robust.
They had to be, because in the early days of when men were and women were placed on the planet, their physical attributes were subject to the climate and how it was. In the case of South Africa, direct suns on the equatorial belt of the earth all the time. They had nomadic lifestyles where they travel across the Transvaal or wherever, sometimes without food or water for a couple, 3 days. Tight hair as natural air conditioning, so they wouldn't, brain wouldn't fry. The melanocytes and melanin is conspicuously distributed differently than on Caucasian skin. My color, my pigmentation doesn't really start down into the translucent layers of the epidermis, whereas black skin, it's the whole epidermis down into the pores everywhere. And this was to survive in that intense sun. Of course, with the ozone layer going away, a lot of those changes are going on now. But yes, we do have particular treatments for black skin. And I really am trying very hard to get my Black Skin Matters movement up and running. I did it in South Africa. It was under Don't Mess With My Skin. And everybody started jumping aboard. We had black activists, authors, actresses, television people, all coming to the launch of that. It was very successful. I never talked about it here too much because I didn't feel any need to. But unfortunately, in today's world, you have to be a little bit political and name things for people to pay attention. We did hear some stories about some black therapists were leaving DMK because we didn't have classes just for black people. Well, okay, fine. I understand that political type thing. So I actually put together this movement. And you know what? I think 10 years it won't even be necessary, but that's the way it is now. Number 2 question, how should I explain to clients why the pigmentation might get darker initially before it starts to fade during the treatment process? Is there any tips for managing their expectations? Okay, I'll answer that one. This is old. I would always tell, especially black clients coming to my clinic in Chicago, that when they have the treatments, the good skin that's not hyperpigmented will brighten immediately, making the darker areas appear to be darker, even though they're really not. And just to be patient and continue on with their home prescriptives, and suddenly it would disappear. Now, number 3, how do DMK treatments for hyperpigmentation differ from traditional chemical peel? This is you have to answer this. Or laser treatments that my clients are familiar with. Before Dr. Lokhande jumps on this, I want to say that chemical peel burns the hell out of your epidermis. I'm talking the old-fashioned phenol-acid croton oil medical peel. A laser, the CO2 laser, vaporizes the hell out of your epidermis. That's what's happening with both of those particular modalities. So how would you answer the rest of it?
Yeah, so one is both are the chemical trauma given to the skin. Through laser is again like I would say the physical chemical trauma, and the chemical peel is absolutely chemical trauma. Now, how skin will respond? By inflammation. Once the inflammation comes, what will happen? Hyperpigmentation. So temporarily you will feel that, okay, the skin is hypo or even tone because the new skin cells are coming. But guess what? It doesn't take more than 24 hours for the melanin to get saturated in the keratinocytes. It is that rapid.
Okay.
So you don't get surprised that if today the client visit has even tone, tomorrow it comes, boom, all over the place.
All right. Question number 4. What should I look for when determining the root cause of a client's pigmentation issues? Are there specific indicators or questions I should ask during the consultation to better tailor the treatment? This is a very important.
Very important. And this literally drives into that always invest your time in history taking. History taking is the most important part in the aesthetic treatment. You might lose one point and that can give you the clue what needs to be done. You need to capture that point. So the more you interact with your client, the more data you collect, make the copious notes, and then you can relate to the point, oh, this would have caused to this skin condition. So always, do not take your client for granted. Always ask them the pertinent question. Get them speak.
Okay, this is a good one too. When treating hyperpigmentation in clients with sensitive or reactive skin. Now, the word reactive is a good word. A lot of people think allergy when they simply just see reactive skin. Are there adjustments you recommend making? Adjustments that you recommend making to the treatment protocol?
Of course, that's what the DMK is all about, that you can customize every treatment for every skin condition in every client.
I'm very curious to see how you're going to answer this one because you've been observing our classes and things like that. How can I educate clients on the importance of post-treatment maintenance at home to ensure their pigmentation doesn't return? I'll answer that. If they don't agree to that at the beginning of the treatment and after the consultation to do the home prescriptions, don't do the treatment. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds hard, but that's the way I did it when I was in private practice. I could tell you some anecdotal stories about some very angry women that would come in, and I would give them a complete diagnosis, and then I would say, I'm going to put you on, not sell, put you on, prescribe. Everybody has heard, I'm going to put you on from their doctor. You go in with the sore throat, puts a tongue depressor, say, you've got strep throat, I'm going to put you on ampicillin clav or whatever, okay? Same with DMK practitioners. And if they are not willing to comply, oh, no, I just want the treatment. Sorry, there's the door. I've had many fights, but you know what? Ultimately, most of them came back after thinking about, well, he didn't take my money for the treatment when he could have, so maybe this is what we have to do after all. Okay, so I basically...
And once they come back, they will be very loyal to you.
That's true. That one judge in Chicago, Jane, she was a B. And she ended up to be my best client for a long time and also a good friend.
Yeah.
All right. What would you say, this is the last question, no, second to last. What would you say is the most common mistake estheticians make when addressing pigmentation?
Jumping on the treatment, prescribing them or giving them some bleaching agent, deep chemical peels, microneedling, dermabrasion, these are all the mistakes estheticians.
Well, those arouse more pigmentation.
Yeah.
Because...
And that are the mistakes to begin with.
It doesn't make sense. These modalities are so barbaric, and yet they still exist.
Yeah.
If I take my fingernail and scratch deeply, you will have a little bit hyperpigmentation.
Yeah.
So, or if I take a scalpel and do dermablading, you will have hyperpigmentation.
Or I splash the water with a high pressure.
God. I can't believe they're getting that kind of money for that. I have a thing at home, this big machine. I hire one of my warehouse guys because I have a huge pool and patios and everything. And it gets algae and gets dirty. And I have him come out and water blast it off. Basically, that's what the...
Yes.
All right, we won't...
So always try to identify the root cause of that pigmentation and then plan the treatment. It's a simple logic.
All right, we have one wonderful therapist. She works for with a plastic surgeon in a very high-end area. And we call her the Stemzyme Queen because she has done more Stemzyme than anybody. She actually has a wall. You may have seen her on my DMK around.
Yeah, we have posted that.
Yeah, we have posted it. But she was featuring the hydrofacial. And at first I was... But then I realized how clever she was. Knowing that it was popular, she got them in there, did that, and then got them into enzyme treatments or Stemzyme.
Yeah.
Using that as a
Anchor.
Yeah, anchor.
Yeah.
If you want to do it that way, that's fine. But we, Dr. Lokhande and I, have to look at the actual scientific things that are going on with those procedures. Now, this is a good one. If I have clients who are combining DMK hyperpigmentation treatments with treatments from other aesthetic providers, such as, we kind of talked about this, microneedling or laser, what advice would you give for coordinate? No, we don't coordinate those two.
No.
Keep it separate. If you have a laser machine, the old-fashioned microneedling, whatever, do that. See what you get. It's not going to be much. Then do the DMK. But don't mix, please, because there's legal ramifications with that also. We have a reputation to maintain. We don't want someone to end up with a granuloma. And trust me, I've seen granulomas both here and in Europe with microneedling. We don't want to end up, well, we use DMK too in a court of law. No, no, no. Please do not. Because, well, just don't. All right, so key points to hit. I'm looking at my script here. Brilliant script writer, by the way. Saves me so much time. I used to just speak off the cuff and talk for hours, and we don't have hours. Encourage DMK professionals to keep learning and exploring DMK's pigment revision tools to help clients achieve long-term results. Obviously, yes. What we are selling, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, is education. That's not just a statement. It's absolutely true. If I were just selling products with no education, why would I be sitting here? I'd be online, right? You know, I'm a pretty good pitch person. I'd be online, but I'm not. You know, we respect and focus on the professional community, which includes medical and advanced aesthetics. All right, now, this is important because, you know, even though I'm old school, because I'm old, social media is everything. And I keep screaming and hollering, we have to be more predominant on social media. So follow the DMK social media for future episode updates and upcoming product launches. It is a good indicator and a good director of traffic. Also, there's clinic locators. If you yourself are seeking a treatment and you need to know who's close to you. I was absolutely shocked. I went to as you know, you got me in the Cleveland Center for the 3-day executive scan a year ago.
Yeah.
This is a true story. So I go in the middle of winter. I was 80 years old. I had on red skinny jeans and a black mink jacket that I got from Russia. And they booked me into a hotel that's close to the biggest medical campus in the world, getting ready for my 3-day scan. So I was in the breakfast room the first morning, and most of the hotel was run by younger black girls. And this one kept staring at me. She'd go and get some coffee, and then she'd stare at me. And then all of a sudden, she says, "Can I have a selfie with you?" And I go, "What?" She says, "You are the man." I said, "What man?" "Yes, I am the man. Last time I looked." No. My mama loves your treatments." Good Lord. So I selfied with her. Then I went to the campus, and the nurses, they all knew who I was. They were all black nurses. And I guess the doctors thought, who is this guy? You know, because the place was thousands of people from all over the world that were getting tested.
It's huge.
Huge place. And yet I stood out like a sore thumb. It was very funny. And then I found out that our account manager of that area at that time actually had opened up a lot of DMK clinics in Ohio, and particularly Cleveland area, that was run by Black people.
Yeah.
So beware of fame. You have no privacy whatsoever. But do keep following us on social media, Facebook, MyDMK, etc., to find out updates, education, new products, new treatments, etc. And remember, as always, knowledge is really power. Thank you.
Thank you.